tools and libraries that, I forget the name offhand, but it basically puts the system back exactly the way it was before you log on to the system.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it either, but it's on the Microsoft site.
Yeah, which is a free download, and I hadn't gotten a chance to play around with it yet, but I thought, well, gee, something like that would be very good. That, or even running a virtual operating system. I don't know how many people even do that, because if someone just uses a virtual machine to access the internet, even if that got screwed up, it's not a big deal, because once that virtual machine is shut down and restarted, you started like with a brand new clean system, and you never have to worry about any problems.
And we're coming to that, with the virtual machine now, and sandboxes that will, run a file in the sandbox first. Those types of tools are very useful, but they're very hard for the average consumer.
Well, running a virtual machine, though, that really shouldn't be very difficult, because it's a matter of you just start it up. I think if someone can drive...
Think about somebody's grandma trying to start the
Right,
how I put it is, someone's going to be able to drive a car, they can drive down the road, but they can't start up a virtual machine.
Have you seen some people driving
down
the
road? But that person can't,
it is far.
And they can't change their tire, though.
Right, I just think it's...
Yes, and those are very good tools. If you have, above average skills, I think, the average home user out there.
See, I would think it's gotten to a point where it should be very, very easy to use and implement. I mean, not talking about someone that, requires years of experience with a computer, but...
It takes a little bit of tinkering with and a little bit of a learning curve to get used to how this works. As opposed to turn it on and jump on the internet now.
See,
what I see most is not really a learning curve, but a perception issue. They're not confident with the computer. Oh, it's a computer, I can't do it. You get a lot of that from the average consumer.
Oh, I agree with that, because I did tech support for Dell for several years, and I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to someone on the phone and I'd end up, well, just put your 12-year-old on the phone. Because then when you say reboot, they know what you're talking about. And, and I do find that statement is true, that a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to do anything because I'm worried about breaking it. And I used to try to tell people it's like, not to be intimidated by the computer, but what's the worst case scenario? Okay, so something gets screwed up. It's not a big deal. That's why you have backups, and that's why there's things like system restore. I wish people knew about those simple things.
Right, and public education is really important to educate people about these sorts of things they can be doing, and
and that's what you're doing.
Yes, that's one of the things I do. And each time I click, because in these forums, we're helping people clean their computers from our messages back and forth in this thread. If you've ever been into some of those, they're very interesting. And one of the things we have to do with them when we're done is make sure we follow up with some solid how to protect yourself so it doesn't happen again. So yes.
Another thing that I find that nobody seems to do, Vista's got an awesome backup utility.
Yes, it does.
And very few people really know about it. The way I really found out about it was got a new computer, and one of my hard drives was bad, and I used it to grab the data, pull the hard drives out, slap the new ones back in, and it was like awesome.
Which Vista are you using?
Ultimate.
Oh, yeah, it's not on home preach.
No, it's not on the home.
No.
But
I looked for that, and it's like
it's an awesome. It's worth. I think it's on Business Edition too, isn't it? Not positive, but it's worth the cost just for that.
Yeah.
If you don't do anything else, because it'll back it up while you're working even.
So these are things that are being thought about for these reasons. For years, people didn't make backups of their important data, and they would just lose it. Whether it's, like I said, an act of God, hardware failure, or these days, malware infection. You can infect your PC that badly.
That's why I think a couple of things that, one, just system restore in Windows. I was always amazed at how little people do about system restore, that like 90% of people's problems could be fixed just by restoring a previous registry.
Yeah.
And even when it came to things like malware that makes changes to the registry, the fact that there's a lot of backups to the registry, that goes a long way to solving a lot of problems. And
Yeah.
so it amazes me that people don't ever really consider those
And that's one thing
steps.
that the software companies are addressing too. Another reason to run an antivirus software is they'll run a registry and have a backup. So it's there. They don't know where or how to use it, but it's there. And if you can get an experienced person on the computer to run that.
Well, I'm even talking about the one that's actually been there from the very beginning, because even in Windows 95, they have backup registries. You just had to do a lot of manual copying files over, and it got better and better. And even as it got better, I'd tell people, I remember when Windows Millennium came out, and telling people that that was one of the best features about Windows Millennium, because it was incredibly easy. Like, I know in Windows 98 you had to go to a DOS prompt to recover another registry, and then when Millennium came out, it's like, wow, it's right there. You could run it within Windows. You could boot into safe mode and run it, but the vast majority of people didn't even realize it was there. And I think it's sad that people don't make use of those tools.
And in fact, malware attacks system restore. One of the things that we're seeing a lot of is it'll go in and wipe out all of your system restore points. So you have no point to go back to. That's another thing too that bothers old information. Back in the day when system restore was still a fairly new feature in ME and XP, when a virus was found on the system, the usual instruction is turn off system restore. Scan your machine clean, put system restore back on. Not today. The thing is, when you turn off system restore, you wipe out all prior restore points. The situation today is such that even if it's an infected restore point, it's really good to have something to go back to, because these malware removals are not perfect. And sometimes the malware is booby-trapped, or if you try to remove it, oh crap, you can't get back into Windows. So, we're trying to educate people about, no, we'll clean out the system restore after we know this machine is clean and it's running properly. So forget the old notion with first turn off system restore, because don't. Leave yourself a backup until you know everything's clean and running right. Then just go in, turn it off, reboot, turn it back on, you're good to go. You can freshly restore point.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's good just to be able to get a system running where you can back up your data, have more options.
Well, hopefully I've been able to give you some resources.
Well, what would you suggest? Let's use John's scenario here. He gets a PC from a friend or a family member, and they infected it or whatever. We have to do a clean install, right? What would be your suggestion as far as setting up that novice or that person that's not confident with the computer, the minimum software to protect that machine?
Take off IE.
And I
Her suggestion.
I included some of those guides, these security forums you see out there that I happen to be very fond of, that are helping people. They also have guides for that sort of thing. But basically, it's going to include, you need an antivirus, and it needs to be up to date. You can't run, I have people running old versions of Malware from 2002 because they like it. Well, it's not effective. It doesn't address 2008 malware. It can detect it, but it sure can't remove it. So, and people think they can, the AV that came installed on their computer, they never have to upgrade. They're afraid of those software upgrades where you have to go up to a new version. Those are not effective. After 2-3 years, it's time to get up to the latest version, in addition to your definition updates.
One program I use